Good morning, everybody. Welcome to class today. Thank you for joining me this morning or joining me later on as you watch this video recorded. So before we get started talking about the content today, which we're going to talk about application software, because that's the module that we're currently in. Before we get started talking about that, what I would like to do is just take some time here and give a couple announcements for you all. I've got a list here of about a half dozen names of students that I'm going to be in contact with within the next day or two to discuss your course progress. I want you all to be on the lookout for that email from me. If you do not receive anything from me in the next day or so, you're just fine. Everything's going okay. Nothing to worry about. But there are some of you that are raising some concerns, and I need to get in contact with you. So please be on the lookout for that. Another thing is just to make sure that you are continuing to, complete your assignments. Remember to make note of the rubrics for the Blackboard assignments, and see how important the different aspects of the points are there. And again, remember that if you're turning in an open-ended assignment late, if I've given you permission to do that and you're turning in an open-ended assignment late, again, remember to please contact me and let me know specifically which assignments you have completed so I can go and make sure to go in there and grade them. But I'm pretty sure that our grades in the gradebook right now are currently 100% up to date. So what you have in your gradebook at the moment, barring any assignments from the current module that we are in, since they're not due until Sunday at 11:59 p.m., is your current grade for the course. So with all that being said, again, if you have any questions about any of the administrative stuff, make sure to contact me. The easiest way to get clarification on something is to ask me. But with that being said, we're going to go ahead and get started now talking about some of our content for this week. And this week we're talking about application software. And with application software, I'm going to we might have a bit of a shorter live stream this week. Because, by and large, this type of, applications, whether we call them software or programs or applications, we can really use these terms interchangeably, whatever we want to call them. These are, things that you probably use every day. You're already using these things. So by and large, it's not going to do me a whole lot of good to spend a lot of time talking to you about stuff that you already know. So we're just going to kind of go through a lot of this stuff really quickly. We'll sit some places where we need to and talk about some stuff a little deeper. But by and large, we're going to be just kind of going through this relatively casually, and we'll probably end our live stream just a little bit early today. So the first big category of applications that we have are sets of applications that we call productivity applications. This is a big category of different types of applications. And these are the pieces of software that we use for, basic business tasks. This is stuff like word processing, spreadsheets and presentations and database management. All of these things are, for a large part, probably stuff that you do a lot. Like you're probably using Microsoft Word, a word processing software, a lot in your college classes to write various things. You probably have a pretty good deal of experience with Microsoft Word by now. Another thing would be Microsoft Excel. You've probably used Excel to create spreadsheets for certain classes. You've probably used PowerPoint to create presentations for certain classes. So when we're talking about productivity applications, that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about a lot of these applications that you use almost every day, and you can use them in business, or you can use them in your educational life, or you can use them in your personal life. Word processing we know about. This is like Microsoft Word. It's mostly text. You can add some images in there to give your documents a little bit of pizzazz. You can also format your text, make it bold, make it bigger, make it smaller, change the font, that sort of thing. And then, you can create a variety of documents within a word processing document. Reports, essays, letters, memos, contracts, brochures, catalogs, even things like menus can be done inside of a word processing application. Then we have spreadsheets. And spreadsheets, we don't always use them like this, but spreadsheets have a purpose. And the purpose of spreadsheets is for math. What we're really doing with a spreadsheet is we're using this software to organize, calculate, and chart numbers. It's at the end of the day, it's all about numbers. So when we're thinking about a spreadsheet and how we should be using a spreadsheet in terms of using the right tool for the job, our spreadsheet should be helping us do math. And time again, when we get into like why we came up with certain things, and we'll actually talk about this in a couple of weeks when we get to our module on Microsoft Excel and how to use Excel. But time and time again, we find these advancements in technology and these advancements in computing, whether it's programming or software or whatever. A lot of the big reason for these technological advancements to exist is because math is hard. And so the spreadsheet, essentially what it does is it takes something that's difficult, being the organization and analysis of numbers, and gives you a graphical user interface in which you can perform advanced calculations relatively simply. On our slide here, we basically have the big to small of what you get inside of a spreadsheet. When you open up an Excel file, for example, or you open up any kind of spreadsheet file, what you're opening up is you're opening up the workbook. Like you might see at the bottom of your Excel window where it says like sheet A, sheet B, sheet C, or sheet 1, sheet 2, sheet 3, however you have it set up. And you have these different tabs that you can click on to get to different sheets within this one book. And really, the idea of the spreadsheet started out in paper, and this is what we'll talk about in a couple weeks. Part of this, as we talk about the history of spreadsheets and how we got to where we are now with spreadsheets. But the actual spreadsheet itself started out as a book that you would go buy. Like you could go to the office supply store and buy a book of spreadsheets. You could buy a workbook. And in the workbook, you have all the different sheets. So each sheet is a worksheet. And on each of these worksheets, we have columns that run along our y-axis. They run up and down. And rows that run along our x-axis. They run left to right. And the singular unit, the smallest unit that we can get in a spreadsheet, is called a cell. And that is one of the little boxes here where we put in our numbers. And so again, we're just kind of introducing the idea of spreadsheets right now. I believe starting in about 2 weeks or so, we move into application targeted material. We'll cover Outlook, we'll cover Excel, we'll cover Word, and show you how to use those in a little bit more depth. So right now we're just talking about the existence of a spreadsheet and what it is for just the usage purposes. Then we have presentation software. This is something that you're probably relatively familiar with. It provides you with a bit of a visual aid as you're doing some kind of oral presentation. We have PowerPoints with all of these slides on them for these live streams and videos that we make for this class. I'm sure you've created a PowerPoint presentation for a class that you've been in. And as a result, you're probably at least somewhat familiar with the idea of a piece of presentation software, whether it's Microsoft PowerPoint or Apple Keynote. If you're a Mac user, you might use Keynote. Either one of these, along with some other free options that are out there and available, give you the ability to make presentations so you can have something visual to go along with your speaking. Now, one that you might not be as familiar with is a piece of database management software. Some of you might have used some database management stuff before, but I would hazard to guess that most of you have not. A database management application is a software application that keeps and organizes large amounts of data. So whereas we use spreadsheets to organize and analyze numbers, our database is for all types of data. We can do, words, we can do numbers, we can do dates, we can do whatever. And keep it all organized within a database. So the data is stored in such a way that information can be extracted in useful lists and reports. We call these queries. We can query a database for specific information. And that's oftentimes, this is one of the biggest businesses in the world right now, is to keep and manage these databases of user data. We call it big data because of the massive amounts of data that are stored in large databases that have to be analyzed and queried and checked against. When you think about it in kind of context, essentially what's happening is whenever you go to the grocery store and you use your shopper's card, whether it's your Ingalls Advantage card or your Food Lion MVP card or whatever you have, that wherever you go, wherever you shop at, they probably have some kind of shopper's card that you use. And you might think, oh, well, this is for, some discounts and special deals. And it allows you to have that, certainly. But a lot of what that does is it provides data points that are stored and managed in a giant database. So, everything you buy that's bought with your number is stored into a database. That way people, they can essentially cater to you. If you've got your Food Lion MVP card, for example, and then you get sent in the mail customized coupons that are good toward things that you normally buy or things that are similar to items that you normally buy. And it's because they have this data stored on you based on, how you've shopped over time. So it is kind of a double-edged sword insofar as, well, it's kind of nice to have some things that are personalized for me. But it's also kind of weird that my information is being tracked to that level, to that degree. So we see a lot of stuff there that where we use databases. The software that's being demonstrated here on the slide is Microsoft Access, which is a part of the Office 365 suite. You might take a course in Microsoft Access while you're here. The database course that we teach in our department, I teach it sometimes. Sometimes some of my colleagues teach it. But it's the Introduction to Databases course, the database DBA 110 course. It's taught in something a little different. It's taught in something called MySQL. And MySQL is essentially the database software for the internet. Like somewhere around 95% of all websites in existence have a MySQL based database tied to it. I just kind of pulled that number out of the air, but tons of websites have MySQL databases or some kind of SQL database tied to it. These are called relational databases. So if you're interested in how data storage works and how we filter and query data to get useful information and all that kind of stuff, I can recommend that class for you. It is quite a difficult class because it is some lower level type programming, but it is very interesting if you're into that sort of stuff, and you learn a lot about databases and how they're managed. I have a whole slew of other workplace applications that you might use at your job. These include things like personal information management, accounting, project management, document management, and even things that are like industry specific. So we can go through some of them now. So the first software application that we look at in depth in our series of 3 modules, which I believe are 7, 8, and 9. I think there's modules 7, 8, and 9, I believe. They might be 6, 7, and 8, but I think they're 7, 8, and 9 are our application-specific modules. The first one that we look at is Microsoft Outlook. And that's an example of personal information management. It's a piece of software that manages messages, like emails or instant messages, schedules. It holds your calendar, holds your to-do for the day, holds things like your contacts. All of these things can be controlled within some personal information management software. And one of the most commonly used ones, as I mentioned, is Microsoft Outlook. There are several others. I mean, really, you can do all of your personal information management in the cloud via Google and Gmail. You have the ability to do messaging. You have the ability to create schedules, manage contacts, save your calendar, all that sort of stuff right within your Gmail application. So applications can be something that we download and we use on our local machines like Outlook, or they can be something that's in the cloud that we use as a website like Gmail or similar services. You might be familiar with some accounting software. Like QuickBooks here is the example that's given. All businesses need some kind of accounting and application to record and report financial information. Right? So if you work in some kind of office management or something like that in business, or if you start your own business where you have to become kind of your own bookkeeper and office manager, you'll have to become intimately aware with a piece of software like QuickBooks or FreshBooks. Something to provide accounting and, record your profits and losses, your billing, your invoices, all that kind of stuff. Essentially anything related to like your assets, your liabilities, your equity, your revenue, your expenses, all that sort of fun businessy stuff that I'm sure you like dealing with. These applications, they provide the basis for financial reporting and tax calculations too. So if you want to run your own business using this software to understand how to pay your taxes and how much taxes you should pay, that's going to come up as well. and be something that you need to do. You also have your physical assets that you need to manage, which is a good thing that you can also keep track of in your accounting software. You know, you have to kind of keep track, you have to kind of keep an inventory of equipment that you've purchased and, you know, maybe things that you need or things that you buy on a recurring basis. You know, and, you know, a lot of this equipment that you buy too, like, you know, if you work in a bakery, you have to have, like, if you're running your own bakery, you need like mixers and ovens and all this stuff, you know, and you have to be able to track your inventory of these items and how much they cost and when you bought them and how far along in their life cycle they are. Or even if it's something like computing devices, desktops, laptops, mobile phones that you might have given out to employees to use on the job site. You can do this kind of asset management within your accounting application as well. Project management. Project management is probably something that you've never used. You've probably never used project management software, but you probably should be using project management software. In the business world, project management software is used a lot. You can use it to coordinate teams, manage the tasks of different members on the teams. You know, if I have a big project, I need to break that down into little milestones and assign different members of a team to meet each milestone and create schedules and collaborate with other members of a team. And I can do that with project management software. And we have a piece of project management software here that's called Open Project that's being demonstrated here. Probably one of the more famous ones is called Basecamp. A lot of places use Basecamp. Monday.com is a growing piece of project management software. There's all sorts of them. One of them that you might want to use is called Trello. Trello. Trello.com. Now, one of the great things about this is that you can use it for free. So, you know, we kind of think about it in terms of business and working on a project as a business, but let's think for a minute how we can use this stuff in our personal life. Or maybe more specifically, our educational life. Like you might have been in a class before where you get one of the things that we all most dread as a student in a class, which is the group project. And you're like, nah, I've been burned before. I don't want to, you know, I don't like working on group projects. I'm usually the one that ends up doing all the work. I don't want to do this. This is horrible. This sucks. I don't want it. Well, use something like Trello. Use one of these free project management software applications and use that to assign different tasks, make a schedule, try to keep people on task. And then, not only do you have this means of managing the project and assigning and delegating different tasks to different people, but you also have a means of accountability. You have a record that you could go back to and say, you know, go back to your fellow classmates and say, well, you said you would do this, but it's not done by this time when we agreed upon. Or if things really go sideways, you can take and you can send that project management sheet to your instructor and say, like, look, I know this part of the project was subpar, was lacking, but it was this person's responsibility. I have documentation of it here. They fell short. Be reasonable about this. It's something that you can kind of think about and work with in terms of how all that works. Holding people accountable. So it's pretty interesting as far as all that goes, to try to use project management software. And I'd recommend that you do it. Document management is another thing. And document management is probably something that you won't use, or you'll rarely use. Some like office managers, again, will use this software. There are hospitals that will use certain types of document management software for records and things like x-rays and things of that nature. So really, it's sort of business and application specific as to whether or not you use a document manager. By and large, what you're doing with a document manager is you have a bunch of documents, whether they're like we have in the example image here, invoices and packing lists and quotes and checks and purchase orders and things like that. Or they're all just like essays or medical documents or what have you. But you have a ton of documents. You need a place to store them, to organize them, and you need to be able to search them. And that is essentially what these document management softwares do, is just giving you the means by which you can search these documents to find the ones that you need in certain instances versus the ones that you don't need. We'll wrap it up today with industry-specific applications, because there are so many different types of industry-specific applications. What we're talking about when we're talking about industry-specific applications are applications that are only used in one business or another. The top one here we have is computer-aided design, or CAD software, and to go along with that we have computer-aided manufacturing, or CAM software. Some of you might be familiar with this stuff if you've ever taken any of our like blueprint reading courses, or some of the manufacturing CAD courses. You might be familiar with this sort of stuff. It's specialized software. It's things like Fusion 360, things like AutoCAD. These are specialized. In 98% of the jobs out there, you're never going to use or see a CAD file. But if you're within an area that manufactures parts, or maybe you do some kind of research and development for inventions, CAD becomes a part of your day-to-day life. And you could probably highlight some specific application that is in your job field, whether it's healthcare or whatever business you're into or what have you, that is specific to that business, that no other organization, no other type of business really uses. And we can even extend this to like job specific applications. Like there are applications that are people who are like marketing managers for companies. There are applications that only these people use. So when we're thinking about industry specific applications, we're not thinking about a single application so much as we're thinking about a bunch of applications that are only intended for one particular job or another. That's where we'll stop for today. I said we'd try to get done a little bit early, and we kind of hit 30 minutes, so I'm a little long-winded sometimes. It's okay. that's where we'll stop for today. We covered all the big stuff. Everything else you can go through in your reading, in your online materials. If you have any questions, please let me know. Remember that these assignments for this module are due by 11:59 p.m. this coming Sunday. Thank you for watching. I'll hang out in the chat for just a minute or two, just in case anybody has any questions. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time.